Mabuhay, Kamustika, welcome. How are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. 2019 and 2019 decisions to make with new visa income requirements for Philippines. There are new income requirements coming sometime that's going to affect someone who is bringing a Filipino spouse to America to live with him or is intending to go with a fiance visa. Now, October 15th is a start date that I have seen bandied about. Please subscribe to Love Beyond the Sea, where I do my best to talk about things a man can do to have a solid relationship with a Filipina, a woman from the Philippines. Comments are helpful for all of us, and don't forget to get notifications for upcoming videos. Now, uscis.gov is a website to go to for information about this, if and when it happens, and that stands for U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. News is swirling around about increased requirements to immigrate a Filipina. Now, $42,000 a year is what I have seen, which is $20.19 per hour spread out over 2,080 hours in a year working full time. That's why I put that in the title. Now, because this is potentially a big deal, I emailed my agent from 4 years ago, and he told me that changes were upcoming for visa immigration sponsorship rules. However, specifics at this point, he said, were hearsay. He said that he had not seen any public mention of income requirements changing in October of this year. I don't know if that should put anyone at ease or not, but nonetheless, the winds of change are blowing, so I think it is not jumping the gun for me to talk a little bit about this. I seem to remember having to submit the last 3 years of taxes as part of my spousal petition, and I wonder, would this 42,000 be an average of a number of years, or would it be required to be the current year of earnings, or the prior year, or the upcoming year? If money was available in, let's say, a 401k or a pension, does that count? Even though there may be restrictions of when it could be withdrawn, like age 59 and a half. If a man had his house paid off, but would be short of this new annual income, wouldn't that be better than if he met the income requirements, but his home was chewing up a lot of the cash? Personally, I married my Filipino wife in 2015 and had an agent handle my petition. I wanted someone I trusted to handle this very important process, and many choose to do it themselves. But with the supposed October 15th start date less than 2 months away, time is of the essence for some of us if this happens to be the case. I am concerned how this will affect guys searching for Filipino wives, since those who are the men who I want to share my experiences with. Now look, there isn't much better in life than having a good Filipino wife. It takes effort, the marriage does, which is what I talk about here, but it's very rewarding. For some guys, they have some decisions to make. For the guys who won't be at a roughly 42,000 annual income level by October 15th, if any of that is the case, but would like to marry a Filipina, what are they to do? What does one do if retirement being imminent? They will be dropping below $42,000 annual income, or whatever it tends to be, but expect to be okay with Social Security and savings. Surely savings will be factored in, or not. Hurry up and marry her in the Philippines so you can bring her to America. That's one option. A question I'd have here would be, if I intended to marry her in the Philippines, just what exactly do I need to have to start this process, to get it filed before October 15th or whatever date it comes out to be. Now, my agent gave me PDF files of the I-130 spousal visa back then, so my fiance and I could, fill out whatever we could before I left for the Philippines to marry her. And this was very helpful, as I didn't feel comfortable interpreting some of the language, so I had, my agent to ask, and I didn't feel it was really user-friendly, not as much as it could have been. I recall him telling me that I needed a copy of the exit stamp in my passport to get this thing going. I think I took a snapshot of it with my phone and emailed it to him after I got back into town. So is this when, he officially filed my petition Since we were married, part of the petition needs to be proof of relationship, but I will go out on a limb and say that wasn't necessary to get the petition filed, or was it? I wasn't under pressure to get it done by a certain time like maybe some men could be now. I mean, there are questions and decisions to be made here, questions to be asked and decisions to be made. I remember getting a letter in the mail from Homeland Security, saying that my petition had arrived, which was great news. But later got a letter in the mail saying they needed the PSA version of our marriage license, which apparently isn't the case in all of the states. But my agent told me to expect this. This added another several weeks to the process, as we just had to wait for my wife to receive it. Then she probably faxed it to me or some other way got it here. So in this case, there was a difference between my agent readying my petition and submitting it, and USCIS receiving it, and USCIS receiving everything they actually needed to continue. There are other times a petitioner will need to submit additional information, and I hate to say it, but the letter may not be specific about exactly what is needed. Does this affect the filing date? I don't know. I sure hope not. The letter may say that something is missing, but then be completely vague about what it is. They could hurry up and tell their fiance that they need to petition her for a fiance visa sooner than originally discussed with her. Perhaps you haven't talked yet with each other about a fiance visa. This is no time for hasty actions and decisions, is it? Just like the spousal visa, you would need to know exactly what information you would need before October 15th or whatever the date ends up being. For my spousal visa, I didn't need all of it at once. I submitted to my agent what he said he needed next as we proceeded, but we weren't on any kind of deadline. So, all of this is easier if you are sure you want to marry someone and are able to act before whatever the deadline is, or the new start date, I should say. But I feel for the guys who feel this is catching them off guard. You may need to get to know your Filipina girlfriend in double time, double speed. They could move to the Philippines, marry her, and live there, or go to the Philippines to marry her, return to America for a while, and prepare to retire in the Philippines. If you are sure you have found the love of your life, the Filipina you are ready to commit to for the rest of your days, you don't have to be concerned about these new income requirement changes. However, you would have to live in the Philippines to be with her every day, where the cost of living will be much more favorable. We hope to retire in the Philippines as early as 2024 after getting things in order. If you are older and in a position to retire there, you'd need to become comfortable with actually doing it. There wouldn't be a rush to act, and there are quite a few vloggers who can actually help you with the logistics of such a move. Rike at Life Beyond the Sea may still be the industry standard, and I like Tom and Ruth Philippine Adventures too. Here at Love Beyond the Sea, my goal and desire is to assist men to marry a Filipina, to be good to her, and to have the best life possible, which I believe for most men involves a wife. This income requirement change could reduce the number of applicants by 50% or more. That doesn't mean 50% less Phil-Am marriages, but half of what is normally the rate to immigrate to America. Retiring to the Philippines is an option that some men may need to consider if it is still important for them to marry a Filipina. For some men, retiring the Philippines may become their only option to marry a Filipina. At least they don't have to be rushed into this decision. However, it involves a lot of decisions to make. Who to marry, when to retire, would I be comfortable living in the Philippines? Can I leave it all behind? Can I leave my family and friends behind? Can I start over, so to speak, in the Philippines? Should I just accept not marrying a Filipina? What are my options for marriage in America? And what about the Filipinas? With the stricter standard expected to reduce the amount of petitions, the Filipinas chatting with foreigners would need to know that the pool of prospects for her is going to diminish. But how will she know for sure? Is she going to straight up ask someone what he makes, so she doesn't hope to go to America someday, but be talking to someone who won't be able to do that? If she starts asking about income, she's going to feel like she'll come off as a scammer. Yeah, many questions, many decisions, but I don't want guys to think they can't marry a Filipina. For some, it just got more difficult, or will soon, to immigrate her to America, but maybe more thought needs to be given to living in the Philippines for some of those men who won't meet the income requirements to bring her here when they are known. Don't throw in the towel. Be thinking about your future. If you will still be able to bring a Filipina wife or fiance to America from the Philippines, that's great. If not, and as always, learn how to be a good husband. It doesn't come naturally. And learn about living in the Philippines. At least be open to that if that's what it's going to take to find love beyond the sea.